Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Guided Podcast. Catherine Ann, our intuitive astrologer, is here this week to discuss the full moon in Libra that's going to be occurring on April 12th. So, Catherine, dive in. What can we expect with this moon?
So this full moon officially closes out eclipse season. Woohoo! Moving on into a new energy. However, like I mentioned in the previous podcast about the solar eclipse in Aries, there's a lot of other planetary things going on. So March and April, holy guacamole, with shifts and changes in general. And so, what I really love about this full moon energy is we are going to be asked to take a different approach. And I think it's a much needed approach for what I can only imagine will be, I want to call it erratic energy of March and April. So April 12th, we're halfway through, gotten through what we know to be the shifting, changing energy of eclipse season. We've gotten through a Mercury retrograde. We've also almost finished a Venus retrograde. These are all big stuff. And so we've also experienced the first about 10, 12 days of Neptune moving into Aries, so that is a big, big, big deal. Neptune spends 14 years in a sign. So when you have heard people talking about the shifts of 2025, this is one of the big indicators. It won't stay there permanently. It will retrograde back out for a little bit and then go back in permanently next year. But this is that initial taste of Neptune in Aries. And we've only had about 10 days of it, but it is a big outer planet that impacts us collectively, globally. This is like a energy of the global collective trends, not necessarily your day to day, but it will be interesting to see if we notice some very clear indicators because they always say immediately when a planet ingresses or enters into a new sign is when you can really feel its impact. And then there's something particularly special about this. So, zero Aries is called a world point. Also, where we start the equinox. It's where the new year starts for astrology. So even though we have our Gregorian calendar new year in January and we have our Chinese new year that falls on a new moon, and that happens typically end of January, maybe early February. What we're looking at in the astrological world is the new year happens when the sun comes into Aries and hits zero Aries. So that was something that happened a little bit earlier, a little bit before that last eclipse when Aries came into, or when the sun came into Aries. But now, just very shortly after that, we have Neptune coming into Aries across this world axis. This point is very important and it's a like a trigger point of some significant shift in the world. The reason I'm laying the foundation for that is because as we come into this full moon in Libra, there may be some nervous system fry that we've been dealing with through the energy of March and the beginning of April. And I just heard Spirit say, for some of us, it's going to feel like for years, right? Years and years of fry. So many of us have experienced that feeling unnerved, feeling afraid, especially in various countries. There's been specific turmoil, but in the US, with change of political party in leadership, there has been a lot of toll on our nervous system. There's it doesn't even matter what side of the what side of the political scales you lean on. It's just been taxing change, upheaval, whether you're for the change, whether you're not for the change. There's no way to not have your nervous system be on edge. And this full moon in Libra is actually going to bring us to a place that says, be still. And your healing journey, because this is what we're always talking about on this podcast, right? Your healing journey is more than ever within. And attention to the balancing and calming of your nervous system is of the utmost importance right now.
One thing I just wanted to add about tending to the nervous system. Last episode, we talked about cultivating this sense of inner security, the cultivating this sense of inner safety. And we don't feel safe when our nervous systems are in fight or flight. We don't feel safe when our minds are beating us to a pulp. We don't feel that inner sense of safety and security when negative emotion is running amok in our body. And what part of the reason I understand why spirit is guiding us back to stillness is because they are encouraging all of us to find a new sense of home within ourselves, because that new sense of home is really cultivating a new sense of inner safety, security, and belonging within ourselves. And when we are able to be still, we're actually able to cultivate awareness as a third party, almost observer, to be able to witness what's going on within us so we can rise above it and detach from the experience of it so that we can see it more clearly to come back to a place of calming that nervous system down. So I'm excited to dive in a little bit deeper here, but it seems very purposeful that we've been working up to this point around these topics of authenticity and inner security. And now here we are coming back to that place of stillness within to help support that.
Yeah. And I think what's so valuable about what you're saying is that when you're cultivating that awareness, it's very helpful then for you to know, is this mine or not? Those of us who walk this journey of the empath and absorb energy from not just the general day to day interaction of people around us, but just the collective energy as a whole. Sometimes, if we're not taking that time to really navigate what we're feeling, where it came from, we could be experiencing emotions that aren't even ours. They're brought on by a collective angst or a collective nervousness when you have that centered alignment and you've cultivated like the knowingness of your own energetic field, then you can say, oh, that's not mine. I'm actually good. The day's beautiful. I'm in harmony. I feel centered. I feel focused. I can observe that that's not the reality for everyone outside me, but I'm okay. And I feel like that is really an important message for this full moon in Libra because any moon in Libra is seeking balance and harmony. Right? Libra, the scales of justice, we're looking for balancing any imbalances. So, as we've been on this journey of self acceptance, as we talked about in the last podcast, now we're having some light shown on an area that's maybe needs a tweak. Maybe you're not in balance in this area and you're like, okay, I need to adjust the scales. But this is not eclipse energy. This is not dramatic adjustments and changes. This is, oh, I see something that I didn't see before, and I'm just going to balance it now. And in order to balance that, it does take that coming into alignment, making sure that you're in a space of like, I'm in my space. I'm not carrying everyone else's energy into this solution. And then you know what needs to be balanced. Then you are allowed to see that maybe what you thought was an imbalance actually just wasn't yours. And so that's why it didn't feel resonant to you, is because it wasn't yours. So you can do whatever processes you have to clear your space, get centered, and then really just work on your own inner harmony. So that's what a full moon in Libra is always going to do. It's going to shine light on an area where we want to come into more balance. We want to come into more harmony. We've been watching. So in the new moon, we would have planted a seed for some new expression of beauty and balance and harmony in this area. Although the new moon for this cycle was an eclipse. And we don't typically do like new moon rituals on eclipses, but still, that beginning energy of building something is now going to come to light where you're going to be able to see, am I in balance? Is this bringing me beauty and harmony and tranquility or not? And so, one of the things that, because it's Libra, we're also going to look at is that relational energy, because balance is all about relation to another person, another thing, right? So we're either looking at that that the desire for companionship, desire for something, desire to bring something in to balance that scale, or the desire to let something go to balance that scale. So it's that need to have some sort of relational equilibrium that full moon in Libra is always going to be highlighting. But what's particularly interesting about this full moon in Libra is we just finished the last eclipse of the Libra Aries eclipses that we had for the past couple of years. And as we talked about with the solar eclipse in Aries, it was like a punctuation point of I matter, show up. And like this Libra full moon, it's almost like that was fiery energy. This is like a salve of a soothing of, okay, we're showing up, but let's do it in this harmonious, gentle way to approach this balance and harmony that you're seeking. Because none of these energies are like a light switch on and off, right? This is this flow of energy that's moving us through stuff. So we're still going to be coming off of that energy of where do I maybe need to hold a line? Where did I need to have some I matter moments? And then this Libra full moon is coming in and saying, okay, good job. I know that might have been a little hard. That might have been a little nerve wracking. Let's go into some stillness and soothe the soul. They just actually showed me this beautiful image of almost like if you were internally pouring like calming lavender through your whole system, right? That's this energy of this full moon of, "Hey, okay, it's okay. We're just going to take a breath." The other aspect that I want to talk about here is that Chiron is again very loud in this lunation because it is literally on top of the sun. So, in a full moon and sun are in exact opposition from each other. And so that means that Chiron is exactly opposite this moon and sitting on the sun. And every year, as I mentioned last podcast, every year we have this sun Chiron activation. And it's a moment where something inside of us just says, don't, I have to address this. I have to heal this. And so this beautiful Libra energy is juxtaposed against a moment of done. Just, I have to go into healing around this. There's something that you feel is unacceptable when it comes to creating balance. There's something where you feel wrong about something, or there's a repressed energy that I surrender. I'm ready to take on this layer of the onion of my healing. And so, knowing that we're in this beautiful, calming, balancing Libra energy that's going to shine a light on something, the moon is one side of the scale and the sun and Chiron are the other side of the scale. And so, we're really looking at what needs to be balanced. And it is going to have some sort of association with not just balancing simple day to day stuff, but balance that supports and integrates the healing of a wound. So, one more step of support on this chironic healing journey of Chiron through Aries that we've all been going through since 2019. But this just it feels beautiful. It feels like, okay, I can do this. And so I want to bring in the tarot for this lunation. So if you are seeing this on video, you can see that I have the Four of Swords tarot card up on my screen so that you can see the image. And the image is a knight laying on the top of it's a coffin or a memorial. It's inside a church. And the knight is laying there with its hands in prayer. And there's many interpretations for this, but the energy that I always feel from the Four of Swords is rest, retreat, reflection, going within. It's not a death card, even though it does look like it's somebody sitting to be, you know, how when a state figure passes and they put them out for people to walk around and pay homage to. That's a little bit what this card looks like, but I don't ever feel that energy from it. To me, it feels more like it would be the death of something that through meditation, you realize now we're ending this. I don't need this anymore. And it's really interesting too, because if you look at the progression of tarot, we have the Two of Swords, Three of Swords, Four of Swords. So, Two of Swords, the swords are crossed and the woman is blindfolded and they have to make a decision and they don't know what to do. They're at a crossroads and they just can't figure it out. And then the Three of Swords is a pretty dramatic card. It's like a heart with the swords going through it and lightning, and it just looks pretty scary because that is like the pain that needs to be dealt with. In order to make a decision, you have to face the fear. You have to go into the pain. So in order to move from the lack of decision making from the Two of Swords, you go into the Three of Swords of, okay, I have to see where it hurts. And that's what this Chiron conjunct Sun is doing. It's saying, I have to see where it hurts. But then this moon is the Four of Swords, which says, okay, I've seen it and now I'm ready to heal. And within that healing, you then will be able to know how to move forward. Just like with the full moon shines light on something. And then by seeing that, you know what action needs to be taken to move forward. So this is that energy. It's just the action that needs to be taken at this point is internal. It's, I need to go within to determine what's mine. Where do I need to surrender? What are the steps I need to take to come into balance? How do I support my nervous system through all of this crazy external time? And know that no matter what's blustering outside, I can come into alignment and wholeness always by being still, by being reflecting, from just taking a break from all of the toil that's happening outside. So, this energy of the Libra full moon, I feel like it's a permission slip to take a break. It's almost a please take a break, even more than a permission slip. I'm going to say it's a plea, take a break and come into self and find who you are, what's yours, what's not, and allow yourself the space. And it's interesting because the theme that Spirit gave me was healing through active imagination. So it's already very clear to see how this energy is healed. But the active imagination part is meditation doesn't always mean emptying the mind. It can, that's a form. But meditation or coming into stillness or coming into alignment can mean active internal work. It can mean doing the energy work to align your chakras. It can mean visioning and dreaming about what you want to bring into your future by feeling it, dreaming it, imagining it. We still have so much energy in Pisces that we can pull on that. So you can have that right now. And then there's also just the internal space of, I may not know anything other than how to go within and just watch the play and slow down the busyness of outside and journey and vision and just enjoy, I want to say, the beauty of what your imagination can do. Because in that think to create mantra, that is imagine to create. It's not a mental process. It's a internal emotional visioning process that then brings that out into reality, right? Any invention that was ever created was first a dream. It was first, what if? I wonder if this would work. I wonder if I could have this. Wouldn't it be nice if anything that has come into form was dreamt up first? And that is what this energy is saying. You may not exactly know how to make that harmony and balance happen, but you can absolutely what if and dream. And that's where this healing is going to start. So, within all of that, we are going to be looking at where this full moon is lighting up for each sign, just so we can look at like where are we going to be maybe focusing on balance and harmony. And as we always are talking about the building of these energies, right? So, what we're going to be looking at in particular is, how is maybe disharmony or inequities in this area of your life preventing you from fully showing full self expression? And with this Libra energy, this is not saying fix it so I can step on a pedestal and be like, it's not like that. It's just saying, hey, let's look at this. Because did you know? It's kind of like, did you know that this pattern or this person or this way of being is actually throwing you out of balance? Let's go in and work on that. Let's dream about how we would rather have it go. And that's going to begin the healing of this area. Okay, so as we walk through each one, we're going to start with Aries and we're going to be looking at what area is the full moon shining a light on the inequities that are preventing you from self expression. And then on the other side is where the sun and Chiron are. So it's perfect because they're in perfect opposition, that perfect balance. Okay, so for Aries, you have the full moon in your relationship house. And you just can't make this stuff up. The me versus we. It's just been so loud for so long. And this is that, I almost want to say that final bright light in this area for Aries to say, okay, ho- is there imbalance here? Is there something I need to heal within me? What wound within me is preventing balance here? Or what's happening in my relationships, my one on one partnerships, that is preventing harmony and balance? Taurus, this full moon is showing up in your house of health, daily routines, even your pets, your work life, not your career, but your day in, day out work. And what in this area needs an adjustment for you to feel fully harmonious? And it's funny, I just had this image of, so do you need to change your pet routine in order to feel like, okay, I've come into balance with this? Because where your Chiron, other side of the scale, is in that area of retreat and subconscious. And so we're looking at this balance of physical health, mental health, and how that daily routine supports that. Gemini, you're having this full moon in your house of children, romance, creativity, entrepreneurship. And so we're looking at, how are we balancing our need for all of that and coming into harmony there with, on the opposite side, our communities, our groups, our networks, and where are we needing to do some healing on that axis to bring in the balance. Cancer, you're seeing this full moon show up in your fourth house of home, family, your lineage. And this has been something that has been so under review because of Mars going through here for so long. So you've been really working on emotional safety in this area. And now you're having this light up. So, Cancer, you've been working on emotional safety and of self. The full moon in Libra wants you to focus on your home. But for you, self is home. So you have this interesting interplay between self and family. And then on the other side, work, your career, and your reputation. So balancing home and family with career. And how are you seeing inequities happening at home that are stopping you from fully expressing yourself out in your professional life? Leo, the full moon is showing up for you in your neighborhood, communication, your house of siblings, and short trips. So, where do we need to find harmony, peace, beauty, and balance in that area? And maybe what we need to do is balance where Chiron is lighting up our house of distant travel and philosophy and faith and education and religion. And we need to maybe come into a little bit of balance here. So, are you spending enough time in those areas of travel or too much time? Are your philosophies really in alignment with who you are? And how does that shine a light on the community you live in? I could really actually see this being something where you're like, I don't really follow that belief system, that religion anymore. But I'm living in a community that does. And so what do we need to do to balance that? There's no action yet. It's about that internal processing and healing to see if there's actual outside action or if it's just coming into more balance internally with that. So for Virgo, the moon is showing up in your second house of money, possessions, income, assets. So it's shining a light on how you're spending your money and it's shining a light on how money is coming into you, your self worth, and how you want to attract these assets. And on the other side is the house of debt, mortgage, taxes, death. And so you're looking at this balance between that legacy wealth and debt versus I need some sort of harmony in my day to day exchange of energy. The second house, I also want to say I always call it money, possessions, assets, but it's also exchange of energy. So it's where are you spending your time? Where are you spending your resources? That is just as much as money, that is an asset that you have that you're looking to balance. And you may have to look at where do you feel obligated to others and to find that balance. This full moon, it's your full moon. So it's showing up in your house of you. And we're looking at what about me feels out of balance? What about me is not in harmony. And this could literally be in your physical appearance where you're going to be shining a light on something and wanting to make some adjustment. You're also going to just be glowing because you have this full moon shining on you. But you're looking at balancing me and we, just like Aries, but it's from the opposite perspective. Are there wounds in this relationship sector that need to be healed in order to balance you fully being you? Scorpio, you are going to find this full moon in your house of retreat, the subconscious, that all that's hidden. And also it's a area of release and letting go of what's no longer serving you, especially when it comes to emotional and mental belief patterns. So that's going to be lighting up for you. and it's juxtaposed against your daily routine, your health, and are you not taking care of yourself? That's what it really feels like to me. Do you have some sort of wound where you take care of everyone else, you're in service to others, but you're not in service to self? And that then impacts your harmony and balance in your mental health. So, this is Libra's journey. For Sagittarius, oh, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. This is Scorpio's journey. So for Sagittarius, you are looking at the Libra full moon in your 11th house of community, friendships, hopes, and wishes. Good luck. And it's on the axis with Chiron and the sun in the fifth house of children, romance, fun, entrepreneurship. So here we're looking at that juxtaposition between I love all my friends. I want to get out, I want to do, but it may need some tweaking because how are you fulfilling this other side where that internal part of you says, this is my creative spirit. This is where my joy is, and making sure it's your joy, not the joy of the group. And so that's where you're going to be finding that being lit up is what is mine? What is my joy versus what is the group's joy? For Capricorn, you are finding this Libra moon in your house of career and reputation. So you're really lighting up. Who are you? How are you seen in your professional space? And is that in balance with your home life or your foundational programming and roots? So, because we know we talked about last episode that Capricorn is really working on healing this wound of family and childhood, that sense of belonging and being able to be seen within their roots. And how is that juxtaposing the workspace? And this really, for me, shows up in are you in a way that's unbalanced, seeking too much validation in your workspace to make up for not feeling validated in your home space or in your internal belief system because you didn't feel validated as a child. So that's what you're looking at. For Aquarius, this full moon is showing up in your house of travel, religion, faith, education, and it is saying, again, we talked about this in the opposite way of are you traveling too much or are you putting too much weight in your faith versus your home neighborhood? It's not like your family of origin, it's your neighborhood and kind of like those short trips and siblings. It's that extended fishbowl. So that's where your wound is, your Chiron wound that you're healing. And so I think what you're going to be looking at is this idea of, as opposed to the flip side that we were looking at, which was, are you now in a new belief system? And so maybe you need to shift where you live or your neighborhood or something about that. You're actually looking at maybe I need to actually engage more authentically in my community as opposed to maybe overdoing it with higher mind type stuff. Being so out in like the philosophy and the higher education that you're not bringing it down to earth and really integrating with your fishbowl of life. So that's what we're looking at for Aquarius. And then for Pisces, this moon is showing up in the house of debt and taxes and resources of others. So you definitely are going to be looking at some things around balancing these topics. You're going to find thoughts of, am I really in balance with how I'm saving for retirement? Or how do, this is resources from others. So maybe if you are receiving money from a spouse or from an inheritance or child support, those type of things, how is that in balance or not in balance? Are you really, I want to say, are you getting what you deserve? And then on the other side, looking at this wound of, is it okay for me to have? Because it's in this area of assets, of time, energy, resources. And you have this wound about, like, it's for others, it's not for me. I need to spend all my focus saving for my children as opposed to making sure that I'm also supported in the now. So this is what this full moon is asking you to do. And then the reminder is none of these conversations are saying take an action right now. All of these conversations are internal within. It's a process of reflection and evaluation. Yes, will some insights, some downloads come through? Will you maybe take some actions of what you've learned? Most likely, yes. But this is more about coming into balance, coming into harmony with this Libra area so that in doing so, you are balancing the I matter part of your chart.
Amazing. So, lots of food for thought for this particular moon. Thank you so much for all of those insights. And thank you all so much for listening, as always. And if you know someone who would benefit from the wisdom within this podcast, please do us the honor of sharing it far and wide. And if you would like to reach out to Catherine Ann to get a personal astrological reading or learn more about your individual transits, please find all of her information included in the show notes. And we will see you all next time. Bye for now.